Imagine federal agents raiding a quiet suburban home and uncovering a pirate's treasure. 303 solid gold bars hidden inside.
Yeah, I mean, it literally sounds like the climax of a heist movie. But that is the actual documented inventory from a real FBI search warrant that was executed just days ago.
It is completely wild, and if you are sitting there wondering how a single person pulls something like that off, well, so are we.
Right. It makes no sense at first glance.
Exactly. So for this deep dive, we have been digging through a massive stack of sources. We're talking federal court affidavits, internal government reviews, international news reports, all to understand this story that just broke wide open on May 18th.
And the details are just staggering.
They really are. So here's the 90-second news hook. FBI agents stormed the Virginia home of David J. Rush. He is a former senior CIA official. They executed a federal search warrant and seized a mountain of assets.
And we are not talking about a few stolen laptops here.
No, not at all. We are talking about 303 1-kilogram gold bars that is valued at roughly $40 million. Plus, they confiscated $2 million in bundled cash. And they boxed up 35 luxury watches, which were mostly Rolexes. Rush now faces a federal felony charge for stealing public money.
Which, honestly, might be the understatement of the century.
Right. So our mission today for you, the listener, is to figure out how a trusted intelligence official allegedly bypassed the tightest security on the planet. How did he fabricate his entire personal history and just walk away with a mountain of taxpayer money?
The mechanics of this are, well, they're fascinating. Because this level of theft, it doesn't happen through some sophisticated cyber hack.
Right. No hackers in hoodies here.
Exactly. Or, a daring midnight break-in. It happens in broad daylight. It relies entirely on exploiting the blind spots of a massive, bloated government bureaucracy.
Yeah.
To really grasp how this occurred, we kind of need to look at the timeline. Between November 2025 and March 2026, Rush submitted a series of formal requests to the CIA.
Okay.
He literally asked for tens of millions of dollars in physical gold and foreign currency.
And what was his excuse? Like, how do you even justify that?
Well, on the official paperwork, he simply wrote, quote, work-related expenses.
Are you serious? Just work-related
Those
expenses?
work-related expenses. And the crazy part is, the CIA processed the paperwork. They just handed over the assets.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And when an internal investigation eventually audited those transfers, they couldn't locate the physical gold anywhere. And they couldn't find a single receipt explaining where it went.
Okay, wait. Let's just pause and think about the physical reality of what you just described. 303 kilograms of gold. That is over 660 pounds of solid metal.
Yeah, it's massive.
That is literally the weight of a large motorcycle. Or, like, a grand piano.
Right. It's not pocket change.
No. You do not just slip a grand piano into your briefcase and walk out to the parking lot.
Yeah.
You need a heavy-duty hand truck. You need a vehicle with reinforced suspension.
You need a whole logistical operation.
Exactly. We are talking about a physical operation to move that much weight out of a secure federal facility. So I have to ask, how does someone just ask the federal government for 660 pounds of gold, scribble work-related expenses on a form, and bypass all the armed guards without a detailed sign-out sheet?
Well, the answer lies in the specific nature of covert operations. And, frankly, why the CIA even possesses that much physical gold in the first place.
Right, because most people probably don't realize the government just has vaults of gold lying around for this stuff.
Exactly. Gold acts as a highly durable, universally accepted currency. The intelligence agency uses it for operations in regions where, the local banking system has completely collapsed.
Like in a failed state or something.
Right. Or when the U.S. government specifically needs to avoid leaving a paper trail. I mean, if you are operating in a war zone or if you're funding assets in a hostile nation, a standard bank wire transfer is going to get flagged immediately.
Oh, sure, by international banking regulators.
Exactly. But physical gold, it does not leave a digital footprint. It is the ultimate off-the-books asset.
So it is essentially untraceable cash that holds its value anywhere on the planet.
Yep. And that is the double-edged sword here. The very secrecy required to make those covert ops successful, well, it's the exact same thing that creates the vulnerability for internal theft.
Because no one is watching the watchers.
Exactly. When assets are specifically designed to be untraceable by our foreign adversaries, they also become incredibly difficult for our own internal auditors to track.
That makes a terrifying amount of sense.
And, there's a long historical precedent for this kind of untraceable funding. Our sources highlight the story of Yamashita's gold during the Cold War.
Oh, I read about that in the stack. That's wild.
Right. According to historians, the CIA utilized billions of dollars worth of gold that Japanese forces had hidden in Philippine tunnels during World War II.
Just actual, literal buried treasure.
Literally. And the agency reportedly used that recovered treasure to quietly fund anti-Soviet operations all over the globe, and they did it completely bypassing the need to ask Congress for a public budget.
Wow. So the strategy of using physical treasure to fund shadow operations. This goes back decades. It's built into the system.
It is a foundational tactic in global intelligence, and we see other nations using similar methods right now, today.
Like who?
Well, the British House of Commons recently published a report detailing how the Russian Wagner Group, the state-linked mercenary force, operates in African countries like Sudan and Mali.
Oh, right, the mercenaries.
Yeah. They provide military security to local warlords or unstable governments, and in exchange, they demand direct access to local gold mines.
Wow. So they just take the gold straight out of the ground.
Exactly. They literally fly the physical gold out of Africa to generate massive, untraceable revenue for Moscow. It completely bypasses all those global financial sanctions.
That is insane, but it really shows why the CIA keeping vaults of physical gold is standard practice in that world.
It is. The system only breaks down when the internal checks and balances fail to verify where the gold actually goes after it leaves the vault.
Right, which brings us perfectly back to David Rush. The $40 million question is how he managed to put himself in a position where he could just request that gold with zero questions asked.
Yeah, that's the core of the whole investigation.
Because the federal affidavits show that he bypassed those missing sign-out sheets by relying on a foundation of trust. But according to the FBI, that trust was a complete top-to-bottom fabrication.
A total house of cards.
Yes. The statistics from his fake resume are just absurd. I mean, Rush forged a Clemson University transcript just to get his initial commission as an officer in the Navy Reserves. And that was way back in 1997.
He was playing the long game.
Seriously. And then decades later, when he applied to the CIA in 2009, he expanded the lie. He claimed he held advanced degrees from Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute and the Naval Postgraduate School.
And the FBI verified that none of those degrees were real.
None of them. He essentially invented a highly decorated academic and military past out of thin air.
But, he didn't just claim a few fake degrees. He built an entire alternate reality for himself.
And that is the part that completely baffles me. I mean, look, faking a college diploma is one thing. You print a piece of paper, you put it in a file, and maybe the HR department just never calls the registrar to check.
Right. It happens more than you'd think.
Sure. But Rush claimed to be a Navy pilot. He claimed he was a graduate of the prestigious Air Force Test Pilot School.
Which is incredibly hard to get into.
Exactly. And in 2018, when he applied for a senior executive service role, he claimed he was the director of a 145-person, 18-aircraft joint Army and Navy weapons testing organization.
It's just such a specific, massive lie.
And the FBI confirmed he never even held a basic pilot's license, not even a private one. So how does someone fake being a test pilot for an 18-aircraft fleet to actual military officers every single day?
That's the real mystery.
Right, because military culture is incredibly specific. You are surrounded by people who know the aircraft, the jargon, the physics of flight, the inside jokes from basic training.
It'd stick out like a sore thumb if you didn't know your stuff.
Exactly. Faking that requires a sociopathic level of daily acting. How did the most secure background checks in the world miss something so massive?
Well, it really comes down to a psychological phenomenon called the halo effect. And that gets combined with the severe compartmentalization of these federal bureaucracies.
Okay, break that down for me. What's the halo effect?
So the halo effect happens when one verified positive attribute influences how people perceive everything else about you.
Yeah.
In this specific case, Rush managed to slip through the very first crack in the 1990s.
With the fake Clemson degree.
Exactly. He used that single fake degree to secure his initial Navy commission. And once he had that official military status, well, that status became his shield.
So the next person checking his background just sees an official Navy officer and assumes the foundation must be legitimate.
Precisely. Bureaucracies are basically designed to trust their own previous approvals. When he applied to the CIA a decade later, the investigators likely looked at his long, honorable military record and just assumed the Navy had already done the hard work.
Right. They assumed someone else already checked his degrees.
Yep. They relied on the previous checkpoint instead of pulling the raw data themselves. Think of it like a VIP wristband at an incredibly exclusive nightclub.
Okay, I like this analogy.
The hardest part is getting past that bouncer at the front door. But once that bouncer checks your fake ID and snaps that neon VIP wristband on your wrist, the scrutiny just stops.
Because everyone inside assumes you belong.
Exactly. The bartenders, the VIP hosts, the managers, they stop asking for your ID. They just look at the wristband. Rush realized that the hardest part was just getting the initial clearance. After that, the bureaucracy trusts the clearance, not the person wearing it.
And, I mean, he managed to get the ultimate wristband. He secured a top-secret and secure Compartmented Information clearance, an SCI clearance.
Which is incredibly difficult to obtain. It costs taxpayers a fortune just to run those background checks. But once you have it, you enter a very small, exclusive club.
And the clearance itself becomes a form of armor.
Exactly. His superiors just assumed that anyone with that level of access must have been thoroughly vetted by someone else. That blind trust allowed him to negotiate higher salaries and secure senior intelligence roles based on pure fiction.
It's wild.
And it allowed him to operate without the normal oversight that a standard government employee would face.
It is genuinely unsettling to realize that taxpayer money was paying an inflated senior executive salary to a guy who was essentially, writing his own fan fiction resume.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
But the federal affidavits show that the $40 million gold heist was not an isolated incident. He had been treating the federal government like his own personal ATM for years, just on a much smaller scale.
Right. There's a clear escalation here from petty theft to grand larceny.
Yeah, people rarely wake up one day and just decide to steal $40 million in gold.
No. They test the fences first, they learn where the alarms are broken, and they practice their methods. And Rush spent years practicing his theft through the government payroll system.
Let's talk about that, because according to the FBI affidavit, Rush was honorably discharged from the Navy Reserves in February 2015 with the rank of lieutenant.
Okay, keep that date in mind, 2015.
Right. But for the next decade, he kept telling his civilian employers in the federal government that he was still actively serving in the military. He even gave himself a fake promotion.
He promoted himself.
Yeah, he eventually claimed he had reached the rank of captain, and he used this fake active duty status to claim military leave on his official timesheets.
Wow.
Over the course of a decade, he systematically submitted fraudulent timesheets claiming 744 hours of military leave. He pocketed roughly $77,000 in unearned dual compensation from the taxpayers.
That requires a very specific, intimate understanding of how different government departments fail to communicate with each other.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just compare that to the experience of a normal office worker. Think about the friction of getting a simple $50 lunch approved on a standard corporate expense report.
Oh, it's a nightmare.
Right. You have to save the physical receipt, scan it, upload it to a portal, categorize the expense, and then wait for your manager and the accounting department to finally sign off.
Sometimes it takes weeks.
Yeah. Now imagine faking an ongoing military deployment to quietly pocket $77,000 in taxpayer money, all while planning a massive physical extraction of 303 gold bars from a secure CIA facility. The sheer audacity is just staggering.
It really is. And it highlights the fatal flaw of bureaucratic compartmentalization.
How so?
Well, in the intelligence world, compartmentalization is supposed to be a security measure. It means the payroll department processing timesheets is not legally allowed to see the classified operational files.
Right, need-to-know basis.
Exactly. And the operational teams are not allowed to talk to the financial auditors. Rush understood this architecture perfectly.
He knew exactly where the blind spots were.
Yep, he knew that if he submitted a timesheet claiming military leave to the civilian payroll department, those clerks could not easily call the Navy to verify his active duty status.
Because they probably didn't have the clearance.
Exactly. They likely did not have the clearance to ask those questions. And even if they did, the bureaucratic friction of crossing agency lines is just massive. It's a huge headache.
It is total bureaucratic fatigue.
Exactly. When a payroll clerk is processing thousands of classified expense reports a week, a form signed by a senior official with a top-secret clearance is not an anomaly. It is just another piece of paper to stamp.
They just rubber stamp it and move on.
Right. Rush operated in the dark spaces between these isolated, bloated departments. He exploited the fact that the left hand was legally prohibited from knowing what the right hand was doing.
But eventually the math did stop adding up. The CIA's internal investigation finally flagged the massive requests for physical gold. They realized the paper trail ended abruptly and the receipts simply did not exist.
Right, so the oversight mechanisms did eventually work, even if they were triggered incredibly late in the process.
Millions of dollars too late.
Yeah, unfortunately. But the internal anomalies reached the desk of former CIA Director John Ratcliffe, and he reviewed the internal findings, realized the agency was looking at a massive criminal violation rather than just, some administrative clerical error.
Right. This wasn't just a misplaced decimal point.
Exactly. So he officially referred the case to the FBI. And that referral is what finally stripped away the bureaucratic armor and brought in outside law enforcement. It ultimately triggered that May 18th raid on Rush's home.
Which brings us to the current legal reality of this entire saga. I mean, we are looking at a historic breach of internal security here.
Without a doubt.
This is a man who allegedly built a decades-long intelligence career on forged transcripts. He faked his military service to siphon off tens of thousands of dollars in unearned salary and ultimately attempted to walk away with $40 million in taxpayer assets.
It's hard to wrap your head around.
It really is. So based on the latest federal court filings, David Rush faces one felony count of criminal theft of public money.
Just the one count for now.
For now, yeah. And as of right now, he has not yet entered a plea. He remains in a jail cell without bond while his defense attorney and federal prosecutors evaluate this massive mountain of evidence seized from his home.
And, the upcoming legal proceedings are going to expose a lot more than just the actions of one man.
Oh, for sure.
They are going to put the internal oversight mechanisms of the entire intelligence community on trial. The public, and certainly lawmakers, are going to demand to know exactly how a fabricated identity survived multiple background checks over 2 decades.
Especially when it's our tax dollars funding the whole operation. When you zoom out and look at the entire timeline, the scariest part isn't necessarily the $40 million in stolen gold.
No, as crazy as that is.
Right. It is the realization that the greatest insider threat was not a foreign spy or some complex cyber attack. It was literally just a guy with a forged college transcript and an understanding of how to exploit government paperwork.
Yeah. It all fundamentally comes down to trust. And this entire story raises an important question, something for you, the listener, to think about long after we sign off today.
What's that?
Well, if a completely fabricated resume and a fake pilot's license can unlock the deepest vaults and the highest security clearances in the federal government, are our national security systems actually impenetrable? Or do they just rely on the honor system for the people who manage to sneak inside the front door?
That is a chilling thought. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.